He's ended DEI, frozen foreign aid, empowered Elon Musk to cut costs and personnel across federal agencies. He's slapped tariffs on China and threatened the same to some of our closest allies. And in what can only be called a huge surprise, he floated a plan to move millions of Palestinians out of Gaza, with the U.S. taking ownership and redeveloping it into the Riviera of the Middle East. So that is out-of-the-box thinking, to say the least, Rick, but nothing else has worked. Is there some value into this proposal?
Very complex problem. I don't have a solution to it, but I'm pretty sure that Trump's proposal is not a solution either. It fails on so many grounds. Operationally, just, okay, who's going to be in charge of deporting them out of Gaza? Is the U.S. going to send troops? They're certainly not going to do this with Hamas still there voluntarily. Where are you going to send them? Countries like Egypt have already said no. So, this could easily be dismissed as just more, Trump either trying to distract or be provocative or whatever. But here's where I fear the consequence of this. He's emboldening the radical right in Israel that don't want a settlement, don't want a solution with Palestinians. They want them out. And I think this could actually make any real solution much tougher to get to, because now they're going to say, see, Trump supports us in booting the Palestinians out and not coming up with a reasonable solution.
Yeah, I agree that what this does is this sort of scuttles, or at least calls into question, the solution that much of the globe had already begun to move toward, and that is a two-state solution. But, as sort of off the wall as we want to characterize Trump, I think if you look carefully, at least as I look at it, that there are a couple of things that drive both his policies, this is Trump too, that is, both his policies and his politics. One is to placate the base by way of hate mongering, whether it's minorities or immigrants, or if it's transgenders or Muslims. But that is part of just sort of putting to the side the deeper motive that I think drives him, and that is the profit motive. To make money. When he talked about his vision of a Gaza Riviera that tracked with that, when he talked about, not getting rid of TikTok, he's like, these were his words, we're gonna make a lot of money. And similarly with establishing a sovereign wealth fund, which on the surface makes sense, but then where it's in place at other countries like Norway and Singapore and China, they have surpluses. We've got a $36 trillion debt. And I'd say even when you consider what's happening with DEI contracts that have now been pulled back, those contracts weren't always given to the highest bidder, but more importantly, now they have to be reallocated, I think, to some of Trump's friends and families. So I think we need to follow the money. This is something that we've seen liberals talk about.
I think that's that's basically right, that this is less about foreign policy and more about this sovereign wealth fund idea that he announced on Monday. His real estate and golf interests have put him in contact with lots of sovereign wealth funds like Saudi Arabia's, which owns Live Golf and the PGA Tour. Now, about a year ago, Jared Kushner was quoted as saying that Gaza's waterfront property could be very valuable. And at about the same time, the Prime Minister of Israel's office released a faux come to Gaza commercial to market the area's potential as a tourist destination if, quote, Hamas hadn't built a nation of terror. And so I think effectively what he's done is put two and two together and concluded that the U.S. can be a sovereign wealth fund that could profit from these beautiful properties, which is a terrible idea, but it's not entirely inexplicable. So you said it's a huge surprise out of the box, but I can see his train of thought on
particularly considering our special envoy to the Middle East is a real estate developer. So it's not only him, it's the people he's empowering to lead. He's a salesperson, not a statesman. And I think one of the things, in addition to that was mentioned, that stands out to me is the lack of humanitarianism that he's displayed throughout his personal life and throughout his particularly second tenure here as president. And I think what he fails to realize is the importance of soft power. The charity that we provide is not just charity for charity's sake. It also is in our self-interest to build good relations in parts of the
Exactly.
world that are struggling, helping them attain clean drinking water, to eradicate diseases that are devastating their communities. He and Elon Musk look at that as a waste of money, and it's short-sighted in terms of not understanding soft power, and it's reshaping America's image in a negative way, right? As I've talked about on this show before, people look at us as the ones with money and guns, and the more we do this type of stuff where we stop helping people, not just because it's the right thing to do, but also because it helps us, it's only going to reinforce those negative images of us.
So
That's-
you're getting at the USAID, the sort of the gutting of that department
Exactly.
and closing off
Yeah,
federal aid.
but I think it also connects what you're saying to this Gaza issue, because although both Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu are on the same page, Netanyahu was interested in something different, and I had always suspected all along that he was looking to just bomb Gaza to the smithereens so that it could never be repopulated. But for Trump, this Gaza proposal, even if he didn't really mean it, I believe it was laying the grounds for making the argument later that we're not going to send more money there, not realizing that somebody's going to fill the void. Wherever America pulls out, some other country is going to pull in, and if it's China or Russia, we're really screwed.
Now, the other point here is this would require certainly the forced relocation of 2 million people, which is something.
Violates
And again, he's
international
playing
law.
both sides. He's an isolationist, but then he talks about Denmark, you know.
Sovereigntist is the word that's come up in the New York Times
Yes.
this week. That's, I think, a better description.
Okay, now.